I want you to imagine a scene for a moment. A man sits at his kitchen table at 62 years old. In front of him is a bank statement. The numbers are smaller than he remembers. Much smaller. He has worked his whole life. He has sacrificed sleep, weekends, parts of his health. Yet one decision, just one, erased decades of effort. Now look again. That man could be any of us. I begin this way because I want to make something perfectly clear. After 50, wealth is not created by genius. It is preserved by caution. You do not need to be brilliant. You only need to avoid being stupid. The younger version of you had time. You could fall, fail, break things, recover, experiment, start over. But time behaves differently now. A mistake that was once harmless is now permanent. What you lose today may not return in your lifetime. You do not need brilliance. You need survival. Let me tell you a story. Decades ago, a friend of mine was celebrated for his intelligence. Law degree, respected career, earnings most people dream of. He reached 55 and felt he was falling behind. Everyone around him seemed richer, louder, more successful. So he placed a large portion of his wealth into speculative.com startups. Not companies he understood, just companies that impressed him. 3 years later, the bubble burst. Half of his wealth was gone forever. He never truly recovered. He spent the rest of his life remembering the fortune he almost had. And here is the tragedy. If he had simply owned boring companies with cash flow dividends, he would have lived comfortably until his last day. But he could not tolerate boredom. His ego could not stand watching others win faster than him. This is the exact psychological trap that destroys wealth after 50. People do not go broke because they lack intelligence. They go broke because they cannot accept that someone else is getting rich faster. Let me repeat that slowly. People do not go broke because they are stupid. They go broke because they cannot tolerate being slower than someone else. Comparison is poison. Envy is poison. Ego is poison. And at 50, poison works fast. You have reached a stage in life where your mission changes. This stage is no longer about attacking. It is about defending. Not about risk-seeking, but about risk-avoiding. In your 20s and 30s, you were allowed to chase opportunity. You could take a punch and get back up. Losses were temporary. Time was your insurance. But at 50, the same loss can be fatal. Time no longer plays for your team. Compounding no longer forgives you. Compounding is not just a miracle. It is a threat. It multiplies profit with patience. And it multiplies disaster with impatience. Good decisions compound upwards. Bad decisions compound downwards. It does not matter who you are. It does not matter how smart you think you are. Mathematics is indifferent. This is why excitement is dangerous. This is why hype is dangerous. This is why urgency is dangerous. You do not need a brilliant investment idea. You need a lack of catastrophic ideas. Let me tell you about another man I knew. He was conservative, slow-moving, almost painfully boring with his money. Every month, he bought shares of steady dividend-paying companies. He reinvested those dividends. He ignored noise. He never rushed. He never bragged. He never compared himself with anyone. At 70, he was peaceful. Not spectacularly rich, but unquestionably secure. Independence. Freedom. Dignity. He was not brilliant. He was simply consistent. Which life do you prefer? The man who reached high and fell forever, or the man who built slowly and slept well every night? This episode is not about investment strategies. Not yet. This episode is about philosophy, mindset, protection. Because if the foundation is wrong, no technique will save you. Here is the core truth. At 50 and beyond, success comes not from extraordinary decisions, but from avoiding disastrous decisions. You do not need to outperform others. You only need to avoid destroying yourself. Let me give you a sentence worth remembering for the rest of your life. The goal after 50 is not to get rich fast. The goal after 50 is not to beat the market. The goal after 50 is simply this: do not die poor. Everything else comes second. When you adopt this mindset, your investment choices transform. You stop chasing trends. You stop buying what you do not understand. You stop listening to loud voices promising fast returns. You stop caring who has more than you. Instead, you start protecting what you have. You start valuing boring investments. You start prioritizing peace over excitement. You start choosing stability instead of adrenaline. You start measuring success not by how fast your wealth grows, but by how safely it survives. Let me draw a picture of two futures. Future 1. You chase the next big thing. Crypto spikes. AI stocks explode. Speculative real estate surges. You jump in late, fearful of missing out. You win for a while. Then a recession arrives, and it takes everything with it. You are 65 with half of what you built, and no time left to rebuild. Future 2. You pick slow companies. Stable companies. Companies that sell products people buy in good times and bad. You reinvest dividends. You avoid debt. You avoid drama. You avoid people who promise shortcuts. You grow slowly, quietly, without applause. And then one day you wake up and realize you are free. You choose which future you want, but only one of them is survivable. Before I close, I want to give you 3 sentences. If you remember nothing else from today, remember these. 1. Wealth after 50 is not about brilliance. It is about discipline. 2. You do not need to double your money. You only need to not lose it. 3. You cannot rebuild your fortune, but you can protect it starting now. Let me end with the same picture I began with. A man sits at his kitchen table, a statement in his hand, a lifetime in numbers. The difference between peace and regret, between dignity and dependence, between sleeping well and counting every dollar, will be decided by the choices you make today. Do not aim to be brilliant. Aim to avoid stupidity, because avoiding stupidity is the most brilliant thing you can do.